Welcome back to Music Theory Logic. My name's Andrew, and today's going to be another music theory breakdown. Today I'm here as my artist alias again. That is D.R.U. For this brand new track I have out called Before We Knew with the JOAT. If you haven't heard my stuff before, the JOAT was one of the first featured artists that I've had on my tracks. Known him for a long time. Let's go ahead into the Logic session. Here we are in Logic Pro. This is my session. Now, if I expand all these layers, we have a lot of stuff going on. Looks like 89 tracks. 2 of those are just reference keys, so really like 87. I can collapse it all, and then we just have those 5 layers, but within each of them, there's a bunch going on. So without further ado, here's the track. Then we're going to talk about all of the notes.
Drusound. Joe. I anticipated but never estimated this. Y'all out there talking the talk, but ain't walking shit. Before we knew that we was golden, I knew that I was chosen, but wanted my wrist frozen. And ain't much change I've sustained. Push forward, no complaints. Now I want no restraints. Now I want to own the bank. Well, fuck it, dog, if I'm being frank. Yeah, I want no limits. Masterpiece, plus a tank. See, I refuse to lose, remind myself daily by looking in the mirror, talking like Chelsea lately. Also remind myself that they gon' love me and hate me. Then debate myself on if I'm going crazy. What I've been through all my damn life. What would you do before we know? Before we knew we were kings over everything. Before we knew we were kings over everything. So we taking the charge and we touching their hearts. Back to the manuscript, back to the blueprint, huh? And the schematic shit, on my inspected gadget shit. If I wanted it, I just imagined it. With a lot of bit of work, with a lot of bit of heart, with a lot of bit of soul. All I do is find my part, but I really want more. Tell me if you really want more. All I wanna do is rock shows, maybe even in show toes. See, that's 3 strikes, but all they give us is 3 strikes. How in the hell you gon' tease like? Now I'm back to asking for these rights. You only know what I've been through all my damn life. What would you do before we know? Before we knew we were kings over everything. Before we knew we were kings over everything. So we taking the charge and we touching their hearts. If you only know what I've been through all my damn life, what would you do before we know? Before we know. If you only know what I've been through all my damn life, what would you do before we know? Before we know.
Cool. Gonna head stop it there. For some reason, east-west. Something weird with the end of that track. Just the very last chord. So hopefully you enjoyed that. Once again, this is called Before We Knew. It's out now everywhere. Find the links below wherever you stream music, whether that's Spotify or SoundCloud. It's going to be up there. So let's go ahead and talk about the notes. This song is in the key of D minor. D minor has one black key. That black key is B flat or A sharp, depending upon how you want to think about it. In the context of this key, we'll call it B flat because we have a rule where we want one of every letter. So the notes are D, E, F, G, A, B flat, C, and D. Now, just like some of the other breakdowns I've done for my music and others, we're going to use a harmonic minor chord at times, and so we might find a C sharp. So the chord progression we have in a lot of the song is the 1 chord, followed by, so that's the 1 chord. That's a minor 4 chord. That's a G minor. This is a major 5 chord. This note is from the harmonic minor. So we have D minor. D minor has the notes D, F, and A. All of these chords are built by skipping scale tones. So we have D, F, and A. Then we have G, G, B flat, and D. Then finally we have A, C sharp, and E. Just skipping scale tones. So hopefully that was easier to follow. Once again, I'm trying to slow that section of these breakdowns down. Now we're going to move pretty fast. There is, like I said in the beginning, a lot going on, so we're just going to go through them. The first layer of stems, I have labeled instruments. It's kind of the one of 3 sections where we have the pitched stuff. This is mainly the intro. All right, so this chord progression, this is basically a D minor. This is actually going to be this major 6 chord. That's a B flat major. Here's the A major, the major 5. Moving along, it's basically a repetition, the D minor. The next time we go to a G minor, that's the 4. Back to a B flat major 7. That is a major 7 built on the 6 scale tone. Back to the A major. So we basically are using all diatonic chords. It's basically like 4 bars repeating, only I replace the G minor from where the B flat major was in the beginning. They have 2 notes in common, B flat and D, so that's how that happens. And then we basically make the B flat major chord a major 7 the second time. So let's see. I'll just kind of like solo out the layers so you can hear all the sound design. So those are just some really subtle strings from East West. Second group of strings from East West. This is going to be our main lead instrument. If the computer doesn't lag out. Bear with me. This happens to the best of us. Don't tell me I have to restart the session. All right, well, that's never happened in a breakdown. Like I said, it's a complicated session, so let me just restart that. Just going to take a second. So hopefully your computer is working better than mine today. If you haven't seen these videos before, I basically record these all in one sitting. That way I don't have to edit. I also feel like it makes it seem like there's less magic tricks happening or trickery. The session is opening up. So this is like an obvious downside to this method. I'm also live streaming these as I make them. So follow me on Sessions Live. If you're not familiar with Sessions Live, it's basically a new program that people use to stream stuff. It's kind of like Twitch, only it's 100% live. All right, we're back. Sorry about that. All right, expedite it. So this layer is the most important layer we have. Basically, our melody, most important layer besides the awesome vocal. I'll keep it playing. It's filtering in. This is D, A, B flat, D, B flat, F, G, F, E. Cool. So that is the basic melodic theme of the song. Everything else is kind of sound designed to add to the what's going. That's sort of a reverse atmospheric sound. Some more strings. Those are some tremolo strings, just adding to the atmosphere. Again, our subline moving along to the low end is really doubling up a lot of the notes from basically our melody. It doesn't happen until halfway through that section, but again, it's the same notes that I just showed you for the melody. Then finally, we have one other keyboard. This is basically like a key instrument that's doing the chord progression I showed you in the beginning. The D minor followed by the G minor. That's inverted. Is that right? No, I'm wrong on that. That's basically, it's just the D minor on top, F, A, D, and then we have the bass line changing on this layer. So let's solo that out and hear that. While we watch it, that's this. So the harmony really doesn't change to that last measure where we get that major 5 chord again from harmonic minor. Cool. Let's talk about some of the other layering happening all the way down here. In our drums, one of the big things you're hearing is damage. So if you haven't seen any of my videos before on this stuff, I use damage. It's the thing that's making the giant cinematic drum sound. So damage is made by Heaviosity. I've done a breakout video on it. Go and check that out if you want. Essentially, that's the main layer playing like what is a giant tom, if you will, but it's functioning kind of as our kick drum at times or supporting with the kick layer. Then I'm using, it's saying cymatics, hi-hats. I'm using basically a sample, a MIDI trigger that I dragged in to a hi-hat that I used from the EXS24. I then modified said MIDI. We've got some kicks. You're going to see cymatics a lot. I love cymatic sounds. So does a lot of people, especially in this kind of crazy like electronic area of music. Don't want to use the word EDM, but like this is some in-your-face bass music. Finally, we have the vocal layer. Now I'm going to do a breakout session on the vocal production that happened here. But basically we have a bunch of different layers of Ryan, aka the JOAT, doing his main verse. I then doubled it and pitched it down. I'm mixing that in. I have some ad-libs, mixing that in. I did this weird chorus effect on the hook, the main section before we knew, to make it sound like it really pops from his verse into when he's singing.
Like Chelsea lately, also remind myself that they gon' love me and hate me. Then debate myself on if I'm going crazy. What I've been through all my damn life. What would you do before we knew?
Cool. So you get a lot bigger wall of like vocals. That helps a lot. Again, I'll do a breakout video on all the plugins and like processing I did on the vocal, but especially given the technical difficulties we've had, I want to keep this somewhat quick and simple to follow. There's then the main brass instruments that happen here. It's essentially holding the one chord, a giant version of the one chord.
What I've been through, oh my, before we know.
It's the first time you're hearing that instrument. It's heavy. It makes for like a really cinematic sort of moment there. This whole track I wanted to make like really sort of cinematic, as I do many of my tracks. I'm using a Serum riser that I built, basically using 2 oscillators. This thing is happening over the course of 4 bars, and there's some movement as it happens. Let's hear that build up.
We were kings over everything. You know, we were kings over everything. So we taking the charge, and we touching their hearts.
All right, let's go through the drop section. So there's not as much to show you on this drop section, except I can kind of talk about my production style on this one. So essentially what you're seeing above and why there's so many channels here is that I was basically using this Serum patch that I built, which essentially looks like this. This was like the original drop was just built on that. I'm using LFO1 to do like a bunch of modulation. I built this, so I should probably put my name on it. There we go. So instead of this just happening statically, I basically changed the rate a bunch of times. I bounced that. That then becomes audio that I'm basically sampling here. So you can tell like all the different rhythms. Once again, it's built on the same patch. So that kind of sounds like you're automating at the end. Cool. After the drop section, we go back into basically verse 2.
Back to the manuscript, back to the blueprint, huh? And the schematic shit. On my inspected gadget shit.
Instrumentally, this is the same as the intro, but it's consolidated. So whereas we had like a 32 bar intro verse, now it's going to be just a straight 16. Then it goes into the 16 hook / build up. Then it goes into our final drop. The final drop has some new music stuff that's sort of noteworthy. I have, or at least for this track, is important to this track. So the whole bass line have been following the 1, then the 4, and the 5 a lot, and then I basically change it. And this is kind of reminiscent of the very first layer I showed you broken out, where the chord progression is going through more than just a 4-bar cycle. So we start out on D's together, then we go to B flat. So 1, 6, back to 1, then down to 5, then 4, then 3, all the way down to 1. And again, I'll play that. Let's watch this MIDI so you can see how it changes when we get to the second half of this. The other thing that's happening on this drop is in a new basically synth layer that I built somewhere in this chaos, but it's in that same sample thing I just showed you. So watch this. Let's play it from drop 2. If it'll play.
Everything, so we taking the charge and we touching their hearts. If you already know what I've been through all my damn life, what would you do before we know?
All right. So this final section is kind of like a post drop. It's the hook vocal, but it's only the pitched down version. That pitch of the vocal is in the original, in the main hook, but it's much more noticeable when it's on its own, like anything would be. The final layer I think I skipped and didn't talk about was the lead that you're hearing. The lead that happens over the hook section, and it also happens more prominently over that second drop that I just played, is basically doing like a giant arpeggio run. It's on an eighth note.
What I've been through all my damn life, what would you do?
So that's a bunch of arpeggios. It's basically like the first three measures are all a D minor arpeggio. Then it goes to that, what is over the 5 chord, only we're doing like an A up to D, down to a B flat, which is like a minor second on top of the chord, really dissonant, kind of helps add to the edge. We go to the G, that's just a fifth, and we do that run a second time. Cool, so that looks like this. Cool. Again, no sampling there at all. Just used my imagination and some of my music theory knowledge / instrument stuff to figure out how to chart what was in my imagination into the computer. So hopefully you enjoyed that. The final thing is the variation that happens in that second drop, which is really similar in a sense of like the descending pattern. It's got some slightly different notes. Let's just listen to that. Here it is. So it has the same second measure arpeggio, this stuff. The very first measure is going D, B flat, A, F, E. All notes from that D minor scale. So hopefully you enjoyed the track. I'm going to play it one more time just to bring us to conclusion. Once again, this is called Before We Knew. You can find it anywhere you find music, and Ryan, aka the JOAT, and I would be honored if you'd show your friends or put it in playlists or whatever. Hopefully you enjoy it. That's the whole point of this music. Cool, here it is.
Drusound. Joke. I anticipated but never estimated this. Y'all out there talking the talk, but ain't walking shit. Before we knew that we was golden, I knew that I was chosen, but wanted my wrist frozen. And ain't much change I've sustained. Push forward, no complaints. Now I want no restraints. Now I want to own the bank. Well, fuck it, dog, if I'm being frank. Yeah, I want no limits. Masterpiece, plus a tank. I refuse to lose, remind myself daily by looking in the mirror, talking like Chelsea lately. Also remind myself that they gon' love me and hate me.
Here comes our hook.
Myself or if I'm going crazy. What I've been through all my damn life, what would you do before we knew? Before we knew, we were kings over everything. Kings over everything, so we taking the charge and we touching their hearts. To the manuscript, back to the blueprint, huh? And the schematic shit, all my inspected gadget shit. If I wanted it, I just imagined it. With a lot of bit of work, with a lot of bit of heart, with a lot of bit of soul. All I do is on my part, but I really want more. Tell me if you really want more. All I wanna do is rock shows, maybe even in show toes. See, that's 3 strikes, but all they give us is 3 strikes. How in the hell you gon' tease like? Now I'm back to asking for these rights. You only know what I've been through all my damn life. would you do before we know? Before we know, we were kings over everything. Before we knew, we were kings over everything. So we take
Top two, here we go.
touching their hearts. If you only knew what I've been through all my damn life, what would you do before we know? Before we know. If you only knew what I've been through all my damn life, what would you do before we know? Before we know.
Cool. So hopefully you enjoyed that track. Again, if you did, you'd help us out a ton by going and clicking the links below and checking it out. You'd also help me out by subscribing to the YouTube channel. Come out with these music theory breakdowns every Friday and another piece of content earlier in the week. I hope you're doing really well out there. Thank you for tuning in and have a wonderful day. I'll see you next time. Cheers.